And good morning, everyone. Today is the 7th of August, 2018. I'm Roy Potter, and welcome to the Potter Expositor. The world's gone almost mad. It's really moving down two separate paths at this point. You know, I've talked a lot about this division. I bring it up all the time. And here we go again. And I don't see it ever stopping at this point. I think that the abyss between the two ideologies, belief systems, and I don't mean just amongst, of course, the different sects of Christianity or that. I'm talking about the overall mindset that's being defined across the spectrum of mankind. And it really is getting wider. The gulf is getting wider, and it's getting to the point, well, it's actually past the point where there will ever be a peaceful reconciliation. I've called this video, Whose Democracy? Because, of course, the people that have totally trashed the Constitution for the last 60 years and longer are now trying to act like it's the basis for everything they're doing to attack those who want to restore the real constitutional republic. It's been fascinating how the cognitive dissonance and the deceit, and I know people don't like the left-right paradigm, but that's why I call them the leftist Marxists, because that's what they are. Not just Democrats, there are Republicans in that too. Are very much against the principle of the perfect law of liberty, and that's really what it comes down to. A lot of people have described this as a spiritual war, and I would have to agree. Spiritual in that it's a war for our minds, as Alex Jones has said, and we're going to talk about him here in a few minutes as well. But I wanted to get you to start thinking about this term that they're always using. I saw it on Drudge again this morning. You know, the leftist Marxists are talking about now that, quote, the survival of our democracy depends on banning sites. So the lessons of the book burnings of the Nazis and all of that, all of that in history is lost on them. And they have taught, unfortunately, the upcoming generations that what they say goes, rather than having people attempt to think for themselves and strike out on their own. They can't have that because it opens up too many opportunities, and not bad ones. You get a few bad ones when you have freedom, when you have liberty, but the good that comes out of it far outweighs the bad, if the people are moral. Remember, there were several founding fathers that said that our particular form of government is only good for those who have high moral principles. And I wouldn't go so far as to say Christian principles, but in reality, that's what it is when you get down to the nitty-gritty. That's really what it is. And so much of our country has lost those principles. And who do we have to blame? Well, we can say ourselves, but it comes back again to that statement, whose democracy? The leftist Marxists want to dictate that. Rather than having an open conversation, we see how they react. They react in forcing you to shut your mouth. Isn't that what Brennan said to Trump? Yeah, shut your mouth. That's how they do it. Shut your mouth. And they're putting into place as many tools as they can to make sure that happens. And we're all talking about the First Amendment and how important it is, but it's almost turned into a religious argument between the two sides, a spiritual argument, because shutting us down, shutting the idea. I mean, most of the time, certainly conservatives can get the floor. I don't even like the term conservatives anymore, but you get the floor, and normally you'll yield and let the other side have their say. Unfortunately, the demonic side, and there's really no other way to describe them, the demonic side, the leftist Marxist side, has never believed that. They believe that, I think one of their slogans is that words are weapons. And in reality, that's true. But that is a much less form of violence. I think it's actually words are violence, something like that. But at any rate, words are less violent than, of course, bullets and edged weapons, etc. But that argument's lost on them. Debate is what we need. But see, they don't really want that. They always say, give us a little bit more. We'll, yield a little bit more in our favor and we'll negotiate with you. And we've made that mistake for way too long. Even Trump's made it. So my point is, whose democracy is this that they're talking about? Well, it's not the people's. It's the deep state, the military-industrial complex, the leftist Marxists, those who have taken over too many positions of power because we weren't vigilant. We went to sleep and we allowed people to get into spots that can harm us. Because, normally there's a scriptural statement and it says, the children of darkness are wiser than the children of light. And I've talked about that before. And what it is normally if you don't have bad in you, we all have a little bad, but this real evil, you don't make plans to take over other people's lives. You just want to live your own. I had a good friend once. He died a few years ago, but he said, if any of us got several $1 million, we'd take our family and we go out and buy a beach condo somewhere and enjoy life with those that we love. These other people aren't like that. To them, it's a tool for control. And that's what we're seeing. It's not live and let live. And it's not enough to control your material life. They want to control exactly what you think. And I'm going to bring it up again. We even heard former FBI Director James Comey say that your thoughts are something that they are now rightfully to control, to see, to read, those types of things. So even there, they don't want you to have privacy. So the democracy that they're talking about is their system. When you hear Hayden and Brennan and Clapper say that Trump's attacking our democratic institutions, what they're saying is really what they're saying. It's their institutions, not the people's, not the republics. And we can go through the background of all the changes that have occurred in the last 100 and some odd years where the Constitution has been subverted illegally. Technically, it never can be, but that's, of course, a piece of paper. As Judge Learned Hand said, if the Constitution, if the law of liberty isn't written in men's and women's hearts, then no Constitution, no court, nobody can save it. So, again, it comes back to us being dumbed down and made unaware of really the dangers that we face. So censorship is their first tool. When you go to war, one of the first things you do is engage in, of course, propaganda in a war of words. And almost immediately, the next thing you do is you start to look for ways to cut command and control to stop the communications of your enemy. And unfortunately, most people don't understand that. Look what Antifa has been doing over the last few weeks, in Portland in particular, but there have been some other places around the country. They believe, they have been taught really that words are violence in and of themselves, and yet they don't consider the words of their own, the violence of their own words, nor the actual acts of violence that they commit as being something that's wrong. They've lost their consciousness. They've lost their conscience. Actually, both. And it doesn't look good. The future doesn't look good in that regard. Even if we, and I'm going to talk about this election situation in a minute, even if we turn the country around as far as getting the right people in office, unfortunately, we haven't cleaned out our institutions. And whether we like it or not, that's what we're going to have to do. And I don't think the American people have the will for that. I just don't. That's kind of a little far down the road, though, but I just wanted to bring it up. So the real point is whose democracy? Theirs. Because number one, we're not a democracy. We're not supposed to be. We're supposed to be a constitutional republic. And certainly their institutions are what they're concerned about. It's like with the FBI, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute too. The FBI, the loyalty to the FBI isn't to protect the country. The loyalty is to their institution. And that's how it's evolved. Like I've been saying, they've been hiring these SJWs for years to turn that organization around. So it is rotten to the core. And I have a quote here from a reporter about that. So anyway, censorship is being ramped up, and where's Jeff Sessions? Actually, I hate to say it, but where's Donald Trump? Because the First and Second Amendments are really the basis for everything our country stands for, is supposed to stand for. And these have been ignored. And I don't want to beat those drums too loud, but I tweeted it out yesterday. I was very upset with this whole thing that's happened to Alex Jones. And I pointed out for a long time that if Trump didn't go down the right road as far as his actions, that American, good, strong American patriots, especially those that support him, would get injured. Now you can say, well, we're in a war, there are going to be injuries. Well, a lot of this could have been averted. And unfortunately, as you know, when Donald Trump does something that I don't like, I'm going to call it out. And I'm very, very tired. I've listened to, Ginger McQueen and some other people who are very, very well read. They're very well educated on the law and all that. But, and on the political process. But if this is a war, then some serious attacks need to be happening to the other side, and they're just not. They're just not. Little things are happening underneath. I think, as my good Republican friend in California says, Trump's trying to solidify his political power with these elections that are coming up. And look what's happening. The attacks just increased on censoring people like Alex Jones, and there'll be others. The excuse is that these are private companies, of course, and they can do what they want with their own corporations and their platforms. And I listened to Monograph last night, and he's very right in everything he said as far as that's concerned. But the social platforms, especially, have been funded by the government. Number one, and if it takes, sometimes under black operations, but regardless, they could prove that. They show it. And at this point, it is a war, and I do believe that, like the antitrust laws in the past, that Trump and of course Sessions, just forget about him. He should have been taken out a long time ago. I'm not going to get into that argument, about whether that's a smart move on Trump's part or not. But the point is that there has to be something done to break these tech companies up. And saying that the ICANN and the IANA, I believe those are the acronyms for the internet control now at the EU and UN levels, will prevent us from doing that. We're a sovereign nation. Any treaty that is made that is contrary to the Constitution is null and void. Marbury versus Madison said that. Any law that's made, and we need to enforce that on our land. To hell with what everybody else does in the world. Some treaties just need. I don't want to break treaties. The United States has done that too many times. To take control of people around the world. But when it comes to the First and Second Amendments, and really, all of the Bill of Rights, there is no way that we should be giving any honor or respect to any treaty that has removed the basic infrastructure of our town square where we talk, and the internet is that. And so really a war needs to be declared like Teddy Roosevelt did on some of those big companies. Do it on these tech companies and go after them. But nobody's doing that. All we hear is a lot of whining from the executive branch. That's all we hear. And I keep hearing that, Trump's hands are tied. Well, desperate times call for desperate measures. So, understanding the difficulty that he's in, if free speech really does get shut down completely, and it's going that way, it won't matter what else President Trump does. The panopticon is still going in, and there's no effort, even on his part, to slow that down. Will these elections that are coming up make a difference? Well, we keep kicking this can down the road, saying, well, give Trump this much more time, give Trump this much more time. And look at the casualties. Is this a game of attrition, a war of attrition? If that's what it is, we're going to lose. If that's how we're looking at it, we're going to lose it. But I might as well bring up the elections because that's important. We just had an election in Ohio, as most of you know, and Trump went there and did an outstanding speech. As always, he always does. The words always sound good. It's just that we never really see, certain things happening that are really necessary. I'm not saying that, his international goals and achievements aren't important. They are. They have been. But our own home is very sick, and I would take that to a further spot, but I'm not really the person to do that. Although I've said it more often than not that a real combat action needs to take place to stop this destruction of our republic, which we don't really have anymore anyway, but it needs to be replaced. So he's concentrating on the elections now, and maybe he's right. I hope he is. What I keep seeing, though, is that we're losing ground. We take one step forward, two steps forward, one step back. You don't win battles that way. You don't win wars that way. Feints and reconnaissance in force to see the disposition of the enemy, if any of you know what those are important. Yes, they are. But you can't do them all the time. Every assault you make can't be a feint or a reconnaissance. If you don't have a decisive battle, you're going to lose the war. So here we are with the elections, and Troy Balderson is who Trump is supporting and who we all, I guess, should be supporting at this time, even those who aren't in Ohio. But I just say, these midterms, let's give Trump the tool he needs, because I'm tired of the excuses. So let's give him the tool he needs to move forward and to stop the entire deterioration, really the decomposition of our country, because it's not only dying, I'm afraid it's dead and it's decomposing. If we can't resurrect it, then it'll be gone forever. So, okay, all right, I'll give him a little more time here. Okay, let's do the elections and let's see if he can hold on to the House and the Senate, both. This year. The House, of course, primarily is what we're talking about. Let's see. Does he have the support of the people? I think so. I think it's looking really good. His approval ratings are up, even with the MSM trying to do what they've been doing all along. So it looks positive. I don't want him to be a dictator, of course not. But as I've said for a long time, this really is a war. It's not politics. He's not in a political, ideological argument, debate. He is in a war. People are trying to unseat him and trying to destroy what's left of our constitutional republic. As I said, the name of this video, whose democracy? It's not supposed to be a democracy, period. And we keep talking like that, and we allow people to keep talking like that, and it's doing us a great amount of damage. Well, I'm kind of rambling on about that, but I wanted to point out that this problem is really getting worse. It's not just the censorship, it's across the board. What they're teaching your kids, the destruction of the male and female relationship and the identification of children as they are biologically. I remember when I was a little boy, and I don't mind talking about this freely. As a young boy, I mean little, like 2-3 years old, I was attracted to girls even then. But I wasn't really sure how to go about that. and it's something that you mature into, and it's not really an identification problem of whether I was male or female. It was my appreciation of the female that caused that question in my mind. Okay, and those things have to be defined by experience and through instruction and through society. And unfortunately, that society is now considered to be evil by the side that wants to destroy the creation. Wow, I'm really getting off, but I don't know how to say how bad this censorship is and what the leftist Marxists are doing. They have said that they want to cause violence and to even kill people. They've said that. This isn't politics. It just isn't. It's an insurrection. It's an insurgency. It is an insurgency. Okay, so let's hope that the people in Ohio get out today. The election's happening today. Get out and help President Trump get Troy Balderson in there. And let's hope that he's not, a double agent. I'm really getting tired of that, too. Like Jeff Sessions, thinking Jeff Sessions is on his side and he gets him in there and he turns on him. Okay. Talk a little bit here about I might as well bring up the fire situation as I'm going down my list here because that's kind of important. The fires in California are just really, really bad. There are also some in the West too, as far as Utah and some other places. Several months back, I talked about the aluminum in the stratospheric aerosol injections, and that a normal fire, I don't know if you remember when I did that, but I showed you the different temperatures at which different things burn. A forest fire, for instance, is like at 1400 degrees. Steel doesn't melt until like 2500, 2700 degrees, somewhere around there. Aluminum is lower, of course. It's down probably, I don't remember the figure, but it's probably around, 2000 degrees, maybe not even that. Probably not even that. But once it's ignited, those fires burn hotter and longer because there's an accelerant there, the aluminum. Well, Pam Jones has talked about that quite a bit. I've mentioned it, and I think that I can't believe the smoke all through the western states. It's really bad. It's the chemtrails. You can't even see the chemtrails anymore. Now we know that these fires. Well, they're telling us it was set by a guy, and I'm not going to get into who that is and all that. But apparently they've arrested somebody on it. But that could be a cover story, right? And I hate to be that suspicious, but the governments have given us reason to be suspicious. And it seems to me that this is another form of warfare. It's taking out a lot of prime country. Worse than that, it's destroying people's lives. And I just think that there's more to it. That's almost like guessing, I suppose, at this point. But that accelerant problem in the SAIs is for real. And so I have a feeling like a lot of what we're seeing is a form of warfare. It's not just because of hot weather and people being stupid out, whether, Smokey Bear, only you can stop forest fires. No, this is something I'm certain that's more involved than that. And some other people have alluded to it. But I just wanted to touch on it for a minute because we don't want to forget that they are still doing this SAI business with the barium and the aluminum in particular. And, of course, along with the nanotech particles that are being spread into everything. And we've talked about all that before. All part of the panopticon and the control grid. And who's trying to stop that? Well, again, let's get control of the House here and see what happens. See if Trump will move forward. Let's see if his strategy is going to work. But this is a big gamble at this point now, sometimes you just have to strike out and hit the enemy hard. And I'm not so sure that we're going to end up having time to do that. Wanted to bring up this whole thing, of course, with the FBI and what's going on with Mueller and Strzok and all these people. It came out last week in a tweet from President Trump that he and Mueller had a very, let's say it's quote, very nasty and contentious business relationship. That tweet he made on 29 July 18, it apparently had something partially to do with his golf, one of his golf courses, probably the one in Florida. I didn't get all the details, but the point is that here we are again. What the heck? Congress, there's some people in the Congress that are saying, we confirmed Mueller to do this investigation, but we did it without all the information. The information about his divided loyalties, his all the things that he's done, which surprises me that they don't know. I think that they probably did, but that's the excuse they're using now, that they didn't know all of these connections and everything. Okay, well, contract law says that if you're not told all the details of the contract, then the contract is null and void. So the Congress, as it sits right now, the Senate, all those people, they have the tools they need to get rid of this entire sham investigation. Now, the word is, of course, that it was going to be shut down by the 1st of September, and now they're saying November. The hypocrisy, we don't want to interfere with elections, so we're going to at least suspend it in September. Well, then they're going to shut it actually down in November. Whatever. The point is that all of this is to keep all of us in a state of agitation and worry. And it's doing a good job of that. I think we can see that. So I guess my point is that there's more than enough evidence to damn the Democrats, the leftist Marxists, let me put it that way, because we have these problems in the Republican Party as well. It just needs to be shut down, and somebody's going to have to just, damn Jeff Sessions, damn him. We all ought to, you don't ever want to curse somebody and send them and ask God to send them to hell, but Jeff Sessions, if right now, deserves it because he betrayed the president, he betrayed us, and I don't care what all those other thread of tears want to say about him. The fruits are there for all to see who will just open their eyes. Still talking about the FBI, let's get a couple of other things out of the way here because I think it's important. Matt Bracken had a tweet out the other day, and he forwarded an article from the Conservative Treehouse that was quoting a Twitter account and also a blog called The Last Refuge. And this is the same thing. Remember my entire FBI expose I did. It's on a playlist here. That doesn't even contain everything that I've done on it. But I've said all along that it's not just the heads of the FBI, the brass, that are the problem, that the entire organization has been corrupted from top to bottom. I've said that for years, not saying there aren't a few good agents. But I like this quote from, let's see if I can find it here. I think I've got it. If I can find it. I don't know if I can. Yeah, here we are. Let me just read this one quote. This is from the Last Refuge. It's actually on the conservativetreehouse.com blog site, quoting the Last Refuge blog. Let me read this to you, because this is absolutely true. And Matt Bracken obviously agrees with this. Okay, if you know who Matt Bracken, he's a former Navy SEAL that's very active in the political movement, very much a supporter of Trump, Republic, First Bill of Rights, all of that. Okay, let me read this. Quote, talking heads always approach criticism of the FBI with I like this term, codependent and enabling qualifier. And then quoting FBI, or quoting these talking heads, we're not talking about the field agents, they say. No, that's nonsense. If the institution is corrupt, then every entity within it is corrupt, until such time as the corruption is removed. absolutely 100% true. So we're back to this where the president needs to take action against the FBI, against the DOJ, using the U.S. Marshals, as I've said. I'm a broken record on this. But one lone voice calling for this, and I'm not the only one, of course. Matt Bracken is, Greg Sawyer is, the Judicial Watch folks are, and several others, that the president needs to use the U.S. Marshals, an aspect of the DHS, which is apparently doing some investigations outside of the DOJ, and with the support from the U.S. Marines to go and just take the FBI apart and the CIA and actually the entire IC. So there we go. I wanted to bring that up today because that is very important. And internationally, of course, I finally saw somebody admit that we're surrounding Russia. And we wonder why, the world is the way it is. We won't let them do that here, but we're surrounding them there and calling them all kinds of nasty names. Boy, they're, when you point at somebody, you got at least 3 fingers pointing back at yourself. That's our illustrious government and deep state, and we just don't have the courage to turn that around. Apparently, not even with President Trump in there. I know I'm bashing that this morning, but I was really, really disappointed with some things that have happened lately. Primarily, this whole thing with the censorship, which should have been something that was on the table right off the bat, not marijuana. And of course, immigration was important, absolutely. But Jeff Sessions' other concentrations. I mean, the president himself says he wants to allow marijuana on at least a small level, right? And yet Jeff Sessions is fighting against him. So somebody's just going to have to get some cojones here. So like I say, we'll see what happens after the election, but I don't have a whole lot of faith. I'm sorry, my friend in California. I know you want me to say it a little bit differently, but I just got to call it the way I see it. And I don't want to sugarcoat anything right now, not while we're losing our platforms for our free speech. Despite what Monograph said, and he was not incorrect, he was correct. The fact of the matter is that the good guys in the government should have done something to secure those platforms, since they are part of our infrastructure, like the town square was in the past. And because of all the money that was put in there from taxpayer funds and from the CIA. It's like I've said for how long now? I quote this all the time. A reminder, the CIA, the intelligence community, equals the MSM, equals the social media platforms. They're all the same thing. Another reason for the CIA and the FBI to be raided. Absolutely. Okay, I don't want to go there yet. You know where I'm going to end this thing, right? I think the Candace Owen thing, I think, is very indicative, and most of you know what happened there. She went, first of all, there are 2 things that have happened to her. There was a tweet from a New York Times editor, contributor, whatever. I'm not even going to say her name. It's disgusting what she said. She said, she'll be happy when all the whites are gone, are extinct, basically, is what she said. And so Candace Owen came out and she replaced white with black on her social pages. So in other words, it's saying that all blacks should be better when they're all gone, right? Well, that was her saying that. She just wanted to see what would happen. Well, anyway, of course, the New York Times reporter didn't get censored, but she did, and she lost her Twitter account. Which shows you how this is. Well, this isn't about honoring the lives of all individuals. regardless of the race, color, creed, whatever, all those things. It's about controlling the narrative. It's very similar to what happened in my legal case back in the 80s. It wasn't about the freedom of the individual, or even, it was it's what you're thinking that they want to control. And so there we are again. So Candace did that. And then, of course, you also probably know that she was harassed and attacked by leftist Marxist Antifas, basically, in a restaurant when she tried to go eat. And yet these are the people that are saying that they're for equality. This is totally upside down. The reality, the fruits of it are there. And how long do we remain patient? And how do we act? Well, I know, but I don't think anybody has the guts to do it. And part of it is getting the U.S. Marshals and the DHS and the Marines to take out the IC, which is at the base of all of this. Ruined our educational institutions, our corporations. I mean, our government. It's unbelievable, the havoc and the destruction that they've wrought. Okay. I'm going to bring this next thing up because I think it's important. It kind of involves myself. There's no doubt that pedophilia exists, and it exists across the spectrum, socioeconomic spectrums, government, private, all over. It's not just an LGBTQ thing. As a matter of fact, most people would say that it isn't at all. But it also exists, of course, there as well as in the heterosexual communities and etc. It's across the board. But we can't go out there and blindly accuse people of it, especially without evidence. And I've already talked about that on several instances. The Tucson deal with the VOP, the entire thing with Sarah Ruth Ashcraft and this Cappy dude pointing the fingers at people. Not saying that those things couldn't have happened. That's not the point. The point is that we're whipping these things up like a witch hunt, and that's wrong. Guess who was a victim of that as well? So I can speak firsthand on this. Remember last time, actually it was probably two videos ago, I showed you my book, and I showed you that I deal with adult women, right? Craig Sawyer came out yesterday, I believe it was, with a tweet. I don't know if I saved it. Craig Sawyer, very active in going after the pedophiles. Very serious business, and he does a great job at it. Some people say he's a government shill, a government operative. I look at what he does, okay? I don't care about who he had to work for in the past. Hell, I had to work for the U.S. government myself. I even guarded a freaking CFR member, okay? And people try to say I'm CFR because of that. Same thing with him. I'm not gonna hold him down and kick him in the pricks because he did a job, okay? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to look at the overall fruits. And I see good there. He apparently thought that I didn't feel that way, but I do. About last December, I've had this brought up, of course, my background time and time again. I'd never had anybody accuse me of pedophilia, of marrying child brides. I never had that. It was always, making fun of me, how I can't, the old joke, I can't handle one woman, how can you handle more than that? Those kind of jokes. And people trying to give me black eyes, for my stand on some of those things and my activities, which primarily happened many years ago. But Monograph, as you know, has been accused of these things quite a bit. He's even come out with some videos lately that get into, what do they call it? There's a name for it. It was bondage type stuff. It's kinky, but it's not illegal, and it's not necessarily even bad if the two parties want to engage in that. But anyway, he's doing that, and I think I know why he's doing it. He just wants to throw this stuff in their face. Plus, he wants to get out of the political realm altogether. But he can't help himself. He still has to come in and make a statement about the New World Order every once in a while. So anyway, the point is that he's been accused. They don't know his real name, these accusers. They say that he did all these horrible things to children and all that with no proof. That's one problem. But what really happened was when I stood up for Monograph, because I said, look, you people don't even know his name. You don't know who he is. You don't really know anything about him. You're making these attacks on him without any evidence, and you're hurting him, and you could very well hurt his family, etc. Well, because I stood up for Monograph, then I was accused of being a pedophile. Have any of you seen that? Okay, because they think guilt by association. First of all, they don't have the proof of this, but because they've made the accusation, they can then start, calling other people that are associating with that person the same thing, and that's the danger of a witch hunt. We have a constitutional republic. We should be standing up for innocent until proven guilty. But oh no, when we're right, we're going to go after the bad people regardless of lack of evidence, right? So I was a victim of this. I was called a pedophile. I was attacked by a lot of people. I still am, actually. I'll see it on the chats every once in a while. I don't look at the comments too much, but I hear about them. Every once in a while, I'll gaze at them by accident, as you know. But at any rate, so there was an individual back then who really did a lot of damage. He was making all kinds of false accusations. And he had some other people that were helping him. I'm not going to give all of their names. I'm going to give his, but I'm not going to give everybody else's that was supporting him in these false accusations. Some of them were obviously IC members who were jumping on this because they could damage my name, they thought. That kind of thing. Well, this particular guy has been known for making these false accusations for a long time, and people have actually had to bring out restraining orders against him. His statements were what were used by people like DeFango and April Lejeune to also make these false accusations, and I am going to bring those two up. DeFango still hasn't apologized to me for what he did there, being the great IT professional he is. He really doesn't know anything. If he stands by those accusations and some others he made, he knows absolutely nothing, and I'm not dealing with him anymore. I'm not even giving him credit on this Q stuff that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. As far as I'm concerned, he likes his lies. Okay? So, the guy who started all this on me, on the pedophilia side, I was being attacked ruthlessly about this, and it's why these things are wrong. Let me read you what Craig Sawyer said. Well, first of all, let me put out, there's a guy by the name of, his handle is Kim Phil, KimPhil2, at KimPhil2 on Twitter. He has a picture. I might as well show this to you. Can you see that? I don't know if it'll focus. See if I can get it in the middle. See that? See that guy right there? His name's Timothy Holmseth. Yeah. Timothy Holmseth, the great, pedophile warrior, against pedophiles, right? Well, he's a false accuser. He may have had, he talks about being an FBI informant. That alone should negate anything he says, what we know about the FBI. And yet a lot of people extol him. Oh, he's an FBI informant, so he knows what he's talking about. He makes false accusations, and that's the problem here. So this is what Kim Phil says. Timothy Holmseth, for this man to accuse parents of murdering their own child in some sexual satanic ritual on his webpage, that's what he does. Something happens in the news and he automatically, makes it into something else. He needs to be shut down. And he quotes another individual, Levi Page, Levi_Page on Twitter, saying, Timothy Olmsted, this is where I got really disgusted. he didn't address people as patriot Americans. Hey, patriotic Americans, how are you? What did he say? Hello, QAnon patriots. QAnon patriots. QAnon patriots. Not American patriots. Not constitutional patriots. QAnon patriots. This is the kind of guy that QAnon supports. So Levi Page has this article that this Kim Phil was quoting. Dangerous QAnon conspiracy pusher Holmseth is a criminal in East, and he talks about where he lives. Well, Craig Sawyer apparently had a run-in with him too. And this is what Craig Sawyer says. So here's his tweet, so you know I'm not BSing you. This is what he says. Craig Sawyer, about Timothy Holmseth, okay? I should have sued Timothy, but frankly I'm too busy doing all this other stuff. I could have taken everything he owned if he owns anything at all. But I'm just not like that. I figure if people can't see what and who I am and they're going to believe a scumbag like this prick, they deserve to just go off and follow him like some other people I could name. All right, Denise Matau, I think, is another one. She's a nobody, but she causes all kinds of grief. Some of you might know who she is. So here's Craig Sawyer. Quote, here's one of the scumbags, Holmseth, against our effective mission to expose and combat child trafficking. Why? Because of all his false accusations. He minimizes it by, the sky is falling, false accusations, pointing people in the wrong direction, just like Lewis Arthur, Michael Meyer did down there in VOP, getting Sawyer down there to try to take his work off of something else and getting involved in a scam. Let me start over again. Here's one of the scumbags, Holmseth, against our effective mission to expose and combat child trafficking. It's time we turn against the criminals serving evil, which Holmseth does. Call them out and accept no more from them. Enough. Expose the attackers. So, Timothy Holmseth and all you that follow him, go to hell. You're nothing but criminals, false accusers, Satan worshipers, in fact, because you were false accusers. I just wanted to bring that up. See the dangers of this? See why I'm so up in arms against what's happened with this entire thing with Cappy and Ashcraft and the basic QAnon movement supporting backyard brawl and that whole nonsense down in Tucson? Takes us off the real enemy. And then it taints us and we get censored, which is exactly what happened to Alex Jones. I don't care if they take me down. I don't depend on this for my living. I do this, as you all know, to get rid of karma, which I think I've fulfilled. So they could censor me, they could ban me tomorrow, and I could really give a shit. Like I said, I could go on an extended vacation. Okay, so now we're where everybody wants to be, right? We will end on cue here, because you know all the crazy stuff that's going on that. Anonymous is going after QAnon, the QAnonites, and I call them QAnonites, which, if you know anything about biblical history, that's very similar to the word Canaanites, which were the enemies of Israel. Isn't that interesting? So I call them QAnonites, or you could even bend that a little bit and say Canaanites, because that's really what they are. That's really what they are. They're worshipers of Baal. We have some proof that a lot of these people that are running this have satanic... we're not making this accusation without evidence, okay, like Holmseth will do. We have the information that there are ties to these people, and there's some of them are Satanists. At any rate, so there's a guy by the name of, I'm not going to name him. He's been on the internet. He's apparently some type of an administrator for the QAnon phenomenon and the boards and all of that. And something very dangerous has happened. And I wanted to point this out because it goes along with this thing from Timothy Holmseth. All right? So it does tie in. And the thing with Cappy and the thing with Ashcraft and all, no doubt. I know for a fact, without a shadow of doubt, that there are pedophiles in Hollywood and in the government and in private corporations. Without a doubt. But false accusations to hurt other people are accusing them of wrongdoing without evidence, and we can't do that. Suspicion is one thing. Let's look into this. But to come out and say it like that, like Holmseth did, and then he was parroted by DeFango and by April Lejeune and by Denise Matteau and whoever else. You see how wicked that becomes? It's a witch hunt. Everybody jumps on a bandwagon. They want to hang the witch, drown the witch, whatever. With no proof, just everybody saying so. That's what democracy is, right? 2 wolves and a lamb for dinner. So whatever the 2 wolves say, that's what goes, whether there's any evidence or not. You see the dangers of that? So this guy who apparently says that he's some type of an administrator for the Canaanites, the QAnonites, Patriot Soapbox Board and CBTS and all that bullshit. A lot of people are coming out against that now, not just the anonymous. But getting back on topic. Remember when President Bush said, if you're not with us, you're with the terrorists, and how that sounded at the time like, oh yeah, we're going to be against the terrorists, but you understand now that what he meant by that is if you didn't go along with the program, the agenda of the deep state, the military-industrial complex, and the New World Order, if you don't go along with that, you're a terrorist. Do you understand that's what he said now? That's what he said. Evil. Well, this administrator, because now they know that the situation that they've been trying to push for so long, the whole QAnon movement, is really kind of coming apart. So they're looking for something to latch onto to keep it going. And this is this guy talking, not me. I'll just tell you, his name's Steve Kelly. Go look it up. This is what he says, and I'm not quoting him, but it's almost verbatim. He says, basically, it boils down to this. If you're not pro-Q, you're pro-pedophile. And if you're anti-Q, I guess that's the same thing. You're a pro-pedophile. So let me rephrase that. If you're not for Q, you're pro-pedophile. If you're pro-Q, you're anti-pedophile. That's actually how he said it. You see that? So they're going that way now. If you're against the crap that Q has been putting out, and this entire thing that's being exposed, if you'll just look at it, people say, oh, but it showed us how to research, we looked at things. You got to understand they did it from the point to control you and to get your market, and they used the claim that they were close to Trump and part of the intelligence apparatus. Oh, there's no doubt that there is intelligence apparatus behind it, but it's not the good side. So I wanted to put that out, let you know that that's the new tactic that the QAnonites, as I call them, a cult. You could even call them Canaanites because that they are Baal worshippers. They go along with false accusations and deceit, just like the ancient Baal worshippers of the Canaanites did. Now they're tagging it that if you're pro-Q, then you're anti-pedophile. If you are anti-Q, you are pro-pedophile. That's where they're going. And that's how they're going to leave. That's no better than what Timothy Holmseth has done, Cappy, Ashcraft, or anybody else that's made these false accusations without evidence. So in that regard, Anonymous is attacking the QAnonite movement, especially the upper, not so much the people that are involved, that are just trying to get information. And if it had been used just for that, it had been one thing. But it really did turn into a cult where if you don't support it, of course, then you're these things like I'm saying here, right? Call you names. They say you're a betrayer, deep state, came after myself, Jack Posobiec back in January, Mike Cernovich, don't even have anything to do with Q. But at this point now, because of what's happened, the Secret Service, of course, is not allowing them to bring their signs in because, the problems that they cause. Well, gee, if they were really for Trump, why wouldn't they let the signs in there? Because they're crazy. All right? So you have a lot of people now coming out against Q publicly. I can't even name them all. And, of course, everybody in the QAnonite cult say, well, we haven't heard from President Trump, so this is all, they're just this is all, how do they say it? Disinformation is necessary. No, that's justification for lying. Disinformation is necessary in a tactical environment. Q, you're not in a tactical environment, or a strategic one for that matter. You're supposed to be teaching. And as Ginger McQueen said, teaching and disinformation are not compatible. So you're lying there too. So anyway, a lot of people have come out. And this thing is dividing the base. I saw, and it's not incorrect, Mythopaic, I think, is what he goes by. He says, well, there's no such thing as dividing the base. Well, there's some philosophical truth to that, because if people get pulled away from something like supporting Trump on the basis of truth, and they do it on these fairy tales and lies, then they're not really his base. So he's really got a point there. And they'll probably all still vote Trump anyway. But this has been a very, very subtle but very effective tool of the leftist Marxists, the DNC, Hillary Clinton, Obama, to cause dissension, misunderstanding, bad information for those who support the Constitutional Republic and President Trump. But we've had a lot of people come out, and I can't name them all. There's some big names now. Of course, Jack Posobiec is going through. He's been giving the Discord chats, chat logs, and some other things. And I think some people are saying he's kind of playing that up for clicks now. But regardless, he has the information. He's probably going to he released a little bit of it yesterday. Is going to be releasing it after a more complete, thorough examination. And I think we need to give him that. And of course, all of the other things that people like 0 Hour One, Unirock did a great interview on the Kev Baker show yesterday, where he went through not all of it, but a good portion of how he went about his investigation. So there's 0 Hour One, Unirock, Monograph, Able Danger, and there have been some others. Pardon me for not remembering right now, but there have been a lot of people that have put a lot of work into that. And Ginger McQueen again, Jennifer Hammonds of Vets for Truth, I think she goes by on Twitter. Anyway, there have been a lot of people that have really, really dug into this and found out what's going on. And hopefully it'll get exposed. But cults, you're not going to change. The hardcore cultists aren't going to change even with the information. I saw that in the Mormon Church, okay? You give them information, they're going to cognitively dissonate. It's cognitive dissonance, normalcy bias, confirmation bias. They're going to ignore anything that challenges their belief system. So, I brought up the Hypatia murder by the Christians back in the 2nd century, for stuff like that. Those are the types of people you're dealing with. So I have no illusions that we're going to help people to see the light. I don't even worry about that. I figure that's a division that divides them from the people that really want the truth, and that's just the way God wants it, and I'm not going to fight it anymore. You want to go down a path of deceit and taking advantage of others, including yourself. Think about the money these elderly people have given to support that now. they actually doxed one lady who I won't even go into who it was, but it's one of the people that really contributed to this thing and was really being pushed by the Patriot soapbox. And she's some little old lady, didn't have anything else to do. I'm not attacking her for her age. I'm just saying that what the reality is and what people think are so totally different, and people are being taken advantage of, including the entire Trump base at this point. So we had Sean Spicer come out and say, no, there's no truth to it. Jacob Wohl, Sarah Sanders. They tried to say, well, she wasn't really addressing Q. Do you guys understand English? that are in the QAnonites that are arguing about what Sarah Sanders addressed here. Do you understand the English language? The question was, what does the president think about the QAnon? And she said, the president doesn't endorse, and in fact, what's the word she uses? Denounces any violent movement. What's wrong with you? She understands the English language. Obviously, you do not. So we had the White House denounce it. That's exactly what happened. Jacob Wohl, the good friend of Don Jr., said it's nonsense. Of course, Jack Posobiec's working on it. Mike Cernovich. Some people don't care about Mike, but regardless, the point is that there are a lot of people that are doing that. John Cardillo came out and said the same thing, and there have been others, lots of others. Good, strong people that have been around a long time that have proven their mettle. Not some faceless anon that you don't know who it is, where they come from, or who's sitting behind the keyboard. And Monograph was right, as it turns out. It looks like it is somebody in the Hillary Clinton Obama circle. It looks like it is. And the people there that are actually running the Patriot soapbox might have some very close ties to the rogue side of the IC. Okay. That's all I'm going to do today. I know I was rambling a little bit. I'll go to chat here. All right, here we go. Sir Charles Cernovich is a fraud. I don't want to see statements like that. Tell me where. Okay? I don't ever want to see a blanket accusation without some type of evidence on my chat room. And I should just block you. But I'll give you a warning this time. Don't ever do that again. Ever. Race Bannon. QAnites are gay. Well, what do you mean by that? Again, let's not make accusations like that, okay? That's manifestly not true. If you mean kind of like, a general, they're like not with it. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Okay, here, same thing. I'm not even going to answer people that can't put some kind of words of intelligence into their posts. I'm not even going to read it. See, you really want to get into the situation where you're actually censoring people in much the same way that the MSM and the social media are. That's what you do when you make these accusations without any backup. Just, you can have an opinion, but say, my opinion is Mike Cernovich is an asshole. Okay, fine. I think a lot of people probably agree with that. But is he a liar? Is he, no, you're going to have to come up with some proof for that. Mike H., bring your evidence, Roy. It's all accusations. I've already put all that out there. I'm not going to rehash it, okay, on cue. I just told you. You can go check all of the... I'm not going to do that. Do you know how much work that is? I'm going to tell you where to go get it, okay? Unirock TV, 0 Hour 1, Monograph, and the statements by people in the know. We found and I've gone all over this. I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to spend any more time addressing the evidences because I put them out there and you're just too damn lazy to go look for yourself. Ties to the Twitter keys, the Washington Pundit, Obama Foundation, Bitcoin, the way the data on the Bitcoin transfers go to these different points in the QAnon structure. I mean, it's really detailed. So, no, there's no way I can cover that all here, and I'm not going to. You get off your ass and you go look it up. It's on, I put a whole bunch of these links in a video, 3 or 4 videos back, maybe 5. And I've just told you where you can go and you can hear the entire breakdown, all of the graphics, everything that shows you everything about QAnon. Go to Unirock TV, all right, or 0 Hour 1, or Mythopoeic. Okay? It's all there, and I'm not going to recover it. That's like fighting World War II all over again. You're too lazy to do it yourself. Yeah, I get mad at you people because you're idiots. You want to be spoon-fed, and then you say, "Oh, QAnon teaches us how to research." Bullshit. You wouldn't have asked me that if that were the case. Yeah, Abel Danger also came out with some good information on the connections with MI6 and the company Kinetic with its social engineering appliance that was also being used in this. Yeah. So if you have to ask that question, you're the person that hasn't done the research. I don't want to see those again. That's a good one. Connie Klostermeyer, why do you think Trump is jumping on the Iran bandwagon? I have no respect for the mullahs. I have no respect for that whole situation there. But we caused the problem in Iran. You're very right. You're very correct. We caused it back in '53, and we've milked it ever since. And really, what it is the underbelly of Russia to go after Russia. That's what it's really about. The military-industrial complex and the deep state and all of its connections, NATO and all that. They're neocon Trotskyites that hate Russia because they got thrown out and they've been trying to take it back ever since. That's what it's about. It has nothing to do with Russia being a good or a bad place. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with its mineral resources and all of that. And just control. It's lies and it's deceits. I think Trump is correct in saying that the Iranian people have to have a right to make their choice. Well, then let them make the choice, President Trump. Let them do it. And if they overthrow the mullahs, fine. Does that mean that we have to invade Iran and all that stuff? No, I don't believe that at all. And if he does that, then he's giving in to the military-industrial complex and the deep state, which would be another thing that I'd be very upset about. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer will totally disagree with me on that because he's been trained in the institutions that Russia's the bad thing, that it's really our enemy. And I'm here to say that they are not. So that's one area that Lieutenant Colonel Schaefer and I disagree, apparently. I know. Who are you, Roy? Hey, nobody's chaining you down here, Go off and, get your confirmation bias from somebody else then. You don't need to be here. If you don't want to see my viewpoint, I'm certainly not forcing it on you, all right? I'm not even charging you for it. So, whatever. Isaac Green, pay Menomind and I'm insane. The young man Isaac Green also was raked by through the coals because he came out when he realized he was duped by Q. Yeah. See, that's what they do. They can't be gracious because if you've ever been in a cult before, that's the exact behavior. When somebody decides that they don't want to believe what you believe, you castigate them, you ostracize them, you call them names. That's what cults do. It's not let bygones be bygones. What about a person that works for a company, but they don't like the company anymore, so they quit and they go somewhere else? Do you see cultic behavior there? Not normally. But when it comes down to these beliefs, that's why I finally called them QAnonites, because they are a religious, not spiritual, they are a religious cult with political overtones. Like Islam. It's the exact same thing. Ban me, YouTube. Ban me. And go off and live life. Yeah, Q is a David Brock psyop to mock and discredit gullible Trump supporters. Yeah. QAnon equals Media Matters, case closed. Well, they certainly have a hand in it, and Isaac Green has pointed that out. And it's obviously true, as well as OFA, the Obama Foundation. Organizing for Action is the Obama front group. They're the ones that hired these 40,000 dissenters, and they're training them and all that. And he's in that mansion just, 2 blocks from the White House, run by Valerie Jarrett and all those criminals. Yeah, Gerald Esparza, thank you. You say you love the Kev Baker show. Yeah, I never actually watched it before. It was because Uni was on it that I went and watched it. So that's another place you can hear the facts for those of you who want your evidence because you're not paying attention. You can't resource or research for yourself. Go listen to the Kev Baker show where he talks with Uni. Okay, that'll give you a good summation. But you've already made up your mind because you're a religious cultist. So I'm not even worried about trying to. I'm not trying to change your mind. I want you to be deceived. Go be deceived. Be my guest. Nobody's keeping you here. Man, we've been going for an hour and 10 minutes. If you can't tell, I'm a little tired today. There's been a lot that's happened around here, which I won't get into, but quite a few things. And so, yeah, I'm a little worn out. But I hope we were able to cover a little bit of ground that may have been. That's very kind of you, Alfonso Capone. Roy, be positive, or we are going to replace you. I'm not going to prophesy unto you deceits. I'm not going to tell you things just because I want you to feel good. I'll tell you things that'll make you feel good, But I'm not going to tell you only things that will make you feel good. I'm not going to tell you things that will only make you feel bad. Over the course of time, as I discuss on these programs, it's been a little bit of both. Okay? We're responsible for how this turns out. We can blame God for it. We can say it's all His doing. We just He's going to do it one way or the other. But I'm telling you, if enough of us don't have a change of heart, this is all going down. Okay? And anybody who tells you otherwise is an operative of the Luciferians in one way or another. Okay. Their ears itch for Q. Interesting. Get Gizmo Goose. Their ears itch for Q. That's a biblical statement. Their ears itch for the deceivers. That's a biblical term. Very good. Oh, Roy, explain the jersey Trump gets. Oh, man. You see coincidences where, it really doesn't matter. Okay, let's say that somebody out there who believes in Q goes and makes a shirt with 17 on it. Does that mean that Trump agrees with it? Is that saying that Trump said, give me a shirt with 17 on it? Or is it just because somebody out there who has some crazy notion of the letter, the 17th letter in the alphabet Q, because of all those other QAnonites out there? Let's say there's a person that does that. That doesn't mean that Trump agrees with it. But I don't think that that's always what happens. There was also I think it was a fire truck or something. The QAnonites, the Patriot Soapbox and CPTS, those guys, they sometimes Photoshop. Actually, they often Photoshop pictures to make it something other than what it is. And on one of them, they actually Photoshopped. I think it was a fire truck with the number 17 on it that it didn't have, and they Photoshopped it in there. Roy, I have your pick in Vietnam. No, you don't. I never was in Vietnam. I'm not that old. Jeez. No, I was commissioned just as let's see, 2 years after a year after the Vietnam War ended. So no, I didn't go there. That's funny. No, I'm definitely getting up in the years. There's no doubt about that. Hey, and that reminds me, before I check out here. I don't know how you can get, for those on, not even Twitter, because I'm getting so I don't even look at my DMs on Twitter or the answers there because it just isn't worth it. I tell you what, we'll talk about it next time I come up. And this is what we're going to talk about. If there are people in the Intermountain West, I'm talking about Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, if you're in that sphere and you feel like you could make a trip to Salt Lake City, what would you think about getting together and having kind of a little symposium? My Republican friend has said that should happen. I imagine he might even, well, if he showed up, I wouldn't be able to tell you who he is, but at any rate, what would you think about that? I could probably arrange something. Oh, yeah, I'm sure we're going to get some IC people and some FBI. I mean, you just got to figure on that. Roy Potter putting on a get-together. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. But, I'd like to see what you guys think about that. Tinfoil out, Roy. I have your Civil War bayonet. Call me. Am I really getting that old? Oh, my gosh. Oh, geez. I go to concerts quite often, and I got to admit, there aren't many single people at these things. There really aren't. Yeah. Not the time, the age group that I'm looking for at any rate. Not too many. Okay, so if you think that maybe, there'd be a time that we could all get together, those who'd like to make it, kind of a meet and greet type thing, probably nothing real heavy or formal, just to get together and talk, visit. if you feel like you could do that, especially if you're in, the Intermountain West and you'd like to do it, why don't you let me know what you think? Russian dating service, Gerald. No, 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 no. I've known several friends who have done that and it didn't turn out well. Oh, no. No, I believe in the old-fashioned way, meeting people, in a normal course of events. I haven't caught up to, oh man, internet dating. Oh gee, I tried that once. Actually, it was twice. And not a good thing. No, I don't think so. Hey Roy, what if your perfect woman turned out to be a Q supporter? Lots of laughs. The Lord play. Hey Laura, I got to tell you something. My wife was a Democrat. Yeah, seriously. She was even get this. Oh, this is going to fry some of you folks. This is why I know so much about this stuff. Okay. She was a member of the Center for American Progress, John Podesta's organization. That's how Democrat she was. Honestly, really. She was a member of CAP, Center for American Progress, which was run by John Podesta. I still get emails from that, so I spy on them that way. They think I'm a Democrat, and they send me these emails telling me what they're going to do. Yeah, honestly, and my wife did that. Now, she wasn't the vindictive type of Democrat. She really wasn't. She just believed, in the basic liberal Democrat ideas, which are really conservative when you think about it. She had a few things. She definitely thought the global warming was real. She bought the book An Inconvenient Truth by Gore, and swore by it. She was a member of Greenpeace. No kidding. I'm not kidding you. But we were like peas in a pod. We could sit there and we could discuss those things. Sometimes she'd make a good point, sometimes I would. But that's what I mean. The differences of opinion aren't a problem as long as we're not trying to entrap somebody and steal their liberty. That's the difference. If you're trying to put somebody at a disadvantage to steal their God-given liberty, right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that perfect law of liberty, as long as you're not trying to do that, those differences are okay. You might even learn something. That's why I take information from a lot of different places. I don't come to my conclusions based solely, I'm not saying it doesn't impact, but based solely on my opinions or in my prejudices. Okay, I've never, ever, ever done that. And yeah, she was a Democrat. But she wouldn't like Q. I guarantee you she wouldn't like Q because she could see through things. She knew she could look at a person. No, this is how good she was. She could look at a person and know immediately whether they were good, bad, a lot of other things about them. She had that spirit of discernment. So she would have looked at this Q thing and said, don't you go anywhere near that, Roy. Don't, like when I first started. Well, when I first started, they were written. I could see they were written in actual. It's called COC, I believe. At any rate, the code mannerisms, the way it's written out, and it wasn't dictating beliefs. It was just giving information, right? And then of course over time, as you all know, it changed into this. If you're pro Q, you're anti pedo, and if you're anti Q, you're pro pedo. That kind of a mindset, and to push people that Q's spending all this time trying to prove how good he is, or how good they are, or how real they are, rather than just put out the information, let people make up their own minds. Okay, so at any rate, Laura, now you know the whole story. Okay, so yeah, fine. Okay. Yeah, well, Tinfoil Hat says, I'd be disappointed in myself if I'd fallen for Q. Again, like I said at the beginning, I could see initially in the first 3 weeks or so, up until Thanksgiving, that there might be a Trump supporter, even possibly not Trump. I never considered it to be Trump himself, ever. That wouldn't make any sense. But somebody close to the president, personal friend, whoever, whatever, that could have been putting that information out there initially, the first 3 to 4 weeks. But after that, I became very suspicious, and of course, as you know, by January 7th, I was out. But at any rate, it's, the fact is that intelligence operations do use, and I've said this before, phrases in newspapers, talking heads on TV, surreptitious messages in other places. That does, in fact, happen, especially in cyberspace. Now, I've never been a cyber expert. Jack Posobiec yesterday, when he was talking about going through these Discord chat logs and looking at the Q posts and all that, he is a naval intelligence officer, and they were training guys like him in cyber security and in cyber warfare. I didn't get that training. I was way too early for that. I touched on it in the early days, a little bit here and a little bit there, but nothing like Jack would have. So I have to respect the people that understand those things. So when he comes out and he really tears those messages, if he does, if he looks at the early Q posts compared to what we're seeing this nonsense now, which is nothing more than regurgitation of things that they've said before, or getting information. You can do this if you have access to the news services prior to them going public, which they do. We already know that that's the case. They make it look like they're predicting, which they're not. It's just going to the right place to get the information before everybody else does. But at any rate, Jack, I'm going to really be interested in seeing what Jack Posobiec says about a lot of these things. So yeah, initially I thought, okay, it's looking pretty good. Yeah, it could be somebody, but it was taken over. That whoever that person was, they took him out. Yeah, they did, or them out. It was probably one person at that point. And then it changed, and I talked about this with Tracy Beans, who I had a lot of respect for initially, and I don't want to put her down, but Tracy went down that road, and I couldn't go with her, and unfortunately we parted ways. Same with Jordan Sather. I knew Jordan Sather personally, met him in Washington State. We talked. This was prior to Q. When Q first came out, we were all kind of looking at it, and then, like I said, when it was obvious to me that it wasn't what it claimed to be, and I left. I didn't disrespect them, but I could tell that they didn't appreciate my stand, and for them it was probably an economic reason, frankly. But Tracy Beans got out of it completely, and unfortunately, her name is in the information on the board moderators and the people that created the CBTS and Patriot Soapbox early on, and she's going to have a hard time separating herself from it. But I don't think she did it for the same reasons that people like Pamphlet Anon, did, and those folks. I don't think it was the same reason. So go easy on Tracy. Jordan Sather, he needs to get his head screwed on right. I'll just say that publicly. I like the guy though. I think he brings some different things to the forefront, to the web, to YouTube, that are of interest to people. Whether or not all of you are or not, that doesn't matter. But Jordan needs to let the Q thing go and go back to what he did before. There are people that see the good things that he's doing on those other subjects, and Jordan, you're not gonna go away unless you sold your soul to the QAnites, and that I don't know, but it doesn't look good, Jordan. I'm saying that as somebody genuinely concerned, okay? All right. I'm done for the day. Thanks for coming. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Keep your situational awareness on high. Look what happened in Portland. It can happen anywhere. The censorship is going on, and it's going to get worse. When they can keep you quiet, they can do horrible things to you. All right? God bless you. God bless yours. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America and the Second American Revolution. And of course, God bless President Donald Trump and all of his righteous endeavors. And may the Spirit of the Lord give him the spirit of discernment that will distill upon him as the dews from heaven, and he will know the right from the wrong and have the courage to do the right thing. Oh, Jim Jordan, yeah. I can't go away without saying thank goodness for people like Jim Jordan. Man, can you imagine if everybody in the government was like Jim Jordan? That will never happen, but wouldn't it be nice? Absolutely would be. I think that would be fantastic. So we'll say thanks to God for Jim Jordan as well. All right, everybody, until next time. Again, think about maybe getting a meet and greet. What would you think about a meet and greet in Salt Lake City somewhere? Okay. I'd say in Wyoming, but nobody would want to go to any place that I'd have access to in Wyoming. No, we'll do it in Salt Lake City. So just think about it, and we'll talk about it next time out here.